Welcome to Do All the Crafts. I'm Kat. Today I'm going to be trying out this Craft Kitsune December 2020 kit. So this is a resin kit. It gives you a lot of instructions on how to use it, and the main thing is you want to be really careful with resin. Generally resins are non-toxic, but it's still a chemical. So we're going to put on some gloves. Here we go. All right, I'm going to open up the bottle of resin, and then we're going to squeeze it to fill up the molds. You want to try to not get too many air bubbles in there, because you will see those in the resin. And just try to kind of push it into the outer parts of the mold. Let's see, a bit more. Make sure you get it filled right up. Okay, I'm going to let that sit for a few minutes, try to see if the air bubbles and stuff will rise out of it. Now, there's two ways you can cure UV resin. You can put it out in sunlight. It may take a little bit longer. You'll just have to see how long it takes. You can also use a UV nail lamp, and this will have it done in just a couple minutes. These are pretty inexpensive. You can pick them up at, on Amazon, or you can pick them up at, say, a beauty supply store like Sally's, and run, maybe $20. So if you do plan on wanting to do more UV resin crafts, this can be a really good investment because it's a really quick way to cure your resin. So I'm going to go through and do my curing, and then we'll come back and see how it looks. Okay, now you want to pop your little pieces out of your mold. They will be slightly warm if you use the nail lamp, but not hot. As you can see, we have a really nice, there's our ice cream top, our little fish cone. Can be a little difficult to see because it's clear, but once we add a little color to it, then the details should come out better. So I'm going to get this all set up for us to use the pastels that they put into the box, and I'm going to try to add some color to this little guy. Okay, now you can see these are the soft pastels that are included with the kit, which you use to add some color to your little taiyaki fish. So what I usually do with chalk pastels is just kind of scrape or grind out a little bit on a paper plate, which is another good reason to be wearing gloves. Otherwise you will be covered in whatever color you're trying to put on there. Okay. Now, unfortunately, there aren't brushes included in the kit, so you'll probably want to have something on hand that you can use. These are actually from a nail brush art set, which I found is really handy for a lot of small detail work. So I'm going to start with our little fishy eye. Now, it can be kind of tricky getting some color to show up on this resin. Now, when I got the kit, it said that the UV resin was actually opaque, and I had never heard of an opaque UV resin. Well, I still haven't, because as you can clearly see, it is not an opaque resin. It is very much clear. But the nice thing about having a clear one, you could add things to the resin. You could add pigments, you could add glitter, whatever things that you might want to add to jazz up your fish a little bit. So now we're going to start putting some orange on there. Try to make him look fishy. Now it does take some time to really get a buildup of color, and you're not going to get a really dark color with the chalk pastels. If you want to get a darker color on your fish, you're really going to need to pull out some acrylic paints or something like that. Mainly because your base of your fish is clear, so it's hard to really get a solid color unless you're using something that actually just covers up the fish entirely. And chalk pastels just really aren't going to give you that kind of coverage. But it does add a little bit of something to the fish, and I kind of like still having the sort of transparent look. It's something a little bit different. And that spot just really doesn't want to go. So just kind of play around with it. There's a lot of colors in here, so you can kind of experiment and decide what color you want your little guy to be. You can like add some other colors to add some contrast. I like adding a little bit of red to his fins to kind of make those stand out. Give him a little interesting aspect there. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of brown around the edge here, just to see if I can like up the contrast on the details on this little guy. I unfortunately have one spot that just really doesn't want to let anything stick to it, so sometimes you try and just things don't turn out the way you want them to turn out. So as you can see, when you're doing the chalk pastels, you want to give it like several passes to really try to build up color there. You can just kind of blow off the excess. Okay, so he's looking pretty good. Now we're going to do a little work on our ice cream. So it's kind of hard to tell, but I've got some white here. So I'm going to first give it a pass over with the white, trying to make it look a little more opaque. It's going pretty well. Okay. Once I get a little more like opaque whiteness, I'm going to take some of this purple just to add a little extra color in the creases here on the ice cream. I don't really know what flavor, grape ice cream, I don't know, but I thought the purple was a nice offset to the orange on the fish. So, but as you can see, the colors don't get super dark. Like, you can get a pretty good coverage, but it's always gonna, you can see the transparency of it behind that. So if you want something that looks less transparent, then you probably want to go the route of paints. So now that we have some color on this little guy, I'm going to set things up for us to put the sealant on there, because otherwise this chalk pastel will not stay on our little fish. So let me get that set up and then I can show you how we do that. Okay, now we have our UV gloss varnish and sealer. So you'll just open that up, and it basically is sort of like nail polish brush. So you want to give a good coat over everything. Try to make sure you cover everything so you get a nice gloss on there. But make sure you're not spreading it too thick because it can blob up and then it will harden that way. So you could have sort of like little lumps on your fish. So you want to try to spread it out evenly. It can be a little tricky. But if you do miss some spots, you can always reapply and then harden it again in the UV light. So it's not too bad if you miss anything. All right, so what I decided to do, I've got this little tiny jar of beads that they gave me with it. So I'm gonna sprinkle some of those on to be like sprinkles on our ice cream, just to add a little color to it since things are a little bit maybe pale. All right, now I'm going to put this under the UV lamp again, and then we're going to come back and look at our little fish guy. Okay, I glued the two parts together, so now you can see our little fish, and I practiced with this kit and made another one. You can see I did the two different sides because they're actually mirrored so that you can put them, if you wanted to put them together and make one whole big 3D fish, you can do that. They give you a lot of things to make finished products in. There's a hair clip, which I think I'm actually going to glue one of my little guys on there. They give you a really nice keychain and a whole bunch of little jump rings. So included in the kit is a small hand drill. So you can use that, and they recommend drilling through the tail, which is like the flattest, easiest part to drill through. And then you can put one of the little jump rings on here, and then you can put it on a keychain. You can make it into a charm, do all sorts of stuff. There's little tiny lemon slices. In some of the pictures they show where you can cut it in half and then glue it onto the side to be a little decorative element on that guy. And you can see I used some of the tiny beads, but there's still quite a lot of them that you could use. I liked that they added the sprinkle effect to the ice cream. Now you can see on the one I made just in the video, I didn't get the resin all the way into the tip, so I didn't get my little tiny tip of my ice cream, which I didn't notice until I saw my other little guy. So you want to make sure a toothpick's really good for that, that you're getting the resin all the way up into the mold and that you fill it all the way up. But overall, I like my little fish guys. They're pretty cute. They also say that you can use 2-part resin in here. Of course, you just have to see what the manufacturer, how long it takes. Those usually take about 24 hours to fully cure. They also say you could use these as clay molds. I don't think you'd want to bake them in it, but a good way to do that is to mold the clay and then put it in the freezer for a few minutes, and then it will pop out and keep its shape really well. So there's lots of use you could get out of this after you make the initial bits. I think there's maybe enough resin to do maybe one more half possibly. I'm not sure, it seems like it's getting kind of empty, but I don't think it's enough to make a whole another fish shape. Now if you don't have one of the UV lamps, you can leave these to sit out in sunlight and they will cure. It just will take a little bit longer. If you have a sunny window or porch or something like that, so you might just want to pick a sunny day to do this because that'll make it a lot easier. It can do it on a cloudy day, but it may take anywhere from a half hour to an hour. So all in all, I really enjoyed this kit. I thought it was super cute. It's very Japanese themed. They even gave you a little button to commemorate your Taiyaki ice cream. So I had a lot of fun with this. I think you can get a lot of later use out of it, especially since they give you so many, there's so many little jump rings, the lemons, You get it for a keychain, for hair clip, the sprinkles, and of course the mold you can reuse as many times as you want. It feels really sturdy that you could get a lot of use out of it. I love it, and I can't wait until next month's kit. So I hope you enjoy watching this. You can find this kit on Amazon. It's a subscription box, so it'll be a different one every month. This was the one for December of 2020. So next month I'll be getting a new one, and I should be reviewing it, and I'm hoping it will be just as fun and some other type of craft that we can try out. And there's also a lot of these, the soft pastels, there's a lot left in there, which you can use for a lot of different things. The tiny drill is really cute and is of course reusable. So it does have a lot of value beyond just making the one craft. And I also will be releasing today my first Hello Kitty cross-stitching pattern in my Facebook group. So if you're interested in that, just go on to Facebook and look for Do All the Crafts. I will also put a link down in the description box. So, you know, sign up for the group. We talk about all sorts of different stuff. You can talk about pretty much any craft you want to talk about. And I hope to see you next week.